Okay, this video is going to have some foul language about the game philosophies Blizzard has shared recently. Don't fill the comments with hate for Blizzard employees. These people are in a tough spot and need constructive criticism about the game, not their personal character's attack. With that said, this might be one of the saddest game philosophies I've ever heard from a development team. Ever. This is Ion Hazzikostas, game developer of World of Warcraft, talking about why restrictive systems like conduit energy are in the game.
The feedback is not just from raiders, also from, hardcore arena folks, but particularly people who are active players, playing in multiple types of content.
So everyone who actually plays the game.
We try to draw a distinction between viable and optimal, and I know those are very subjective words.
Yep.
For some people, there is no difference, and I think those are the people with whom we're always going to have some disagreement.
What game do you think we're playing? Viable in World of Warcraft is optimal. It's not even a question to any player that plays the game. If someone says that there's a viable option that's not optimal, I can guarantee you they're not playing it. But there's still more. Let them continue.
If you aren't willing to accept something that is 0.5% suboptimal in exchange for flexibility and branching out across multiple roles or whatever, that's almost impossible to accommodate.
I really hate this talking point of worrying about viable versus optimal. It doesn't matter if it's 0.5% or 5%. If you aren't allowed to use what is clearly optimal for some arbitrary reason, like conduit energy or even worse, covenants, you'll just completely ignore those non-options. This game is played in a way that the amount doesn't actually matter. Listen, we all know that feeling we get when we're underperforming. I would be doing more damage, I'd be doing more healing, I'd be pulling bigger. If only I had this one trinket, a better weapon, if I had this one conduit. And it's not just some tiny 1% of the population that enjoys setting their character up optimally. Caring about the effectiveness of your character is a fundamental pillar of an RPG, especially one where you play alongside or against other players that you can directly compare yourself to. This is ultimately the same reason why your player power being locked behind your Covenant choice is also being received negatively. And clearly, the Covenant statistics point out that the vast majority of players prefer to be optimal. Just look at Fire Mage. The most obvious conduit choice for any new player would be the Pyroblast does X% more damage, right? Because the other three single target options are Shifting Power reduces your ability cooldowns by some small number, Fireball grants mastery when it doesn't crit, or your damage is slightly increased during combustion for a short time after you Fire Blast. Now, every mage watching this video knows what the best is, but let's just see if anyone plays the more obvious ones. Let's check Mythic statistics on all bosses. There's 77,000 Fire Mage parses, and all of them use the combustion one, while 96% use the CD reduction conduit. What about the other 4%? Well, those ones aren't even using two potency conduits. This is actually pretty damn crazy to look at, but it's Mythic, so let's check out Heroic. Now we have almost 150,000 parses. That's a lot of mages. If we scroll down here, we can see that we have 95% using the combustion conduit and 85% using the cooldown reduction conduit. And if we scroll way down, you'll see that the only other conduit used is the Pyroblast one at a whopping 8%. This is all players doing Heroic Castle Nathria. Some people don't even have conduit options, yet they still would rather pick nothing over the shit ones. How the hell can anyone look at this data and think to themselves, let's make it really difficult to swap our conduits around just in case the 3 out of 100,000 mages feel overwhelmed by the options? This is fucking ridiculous. But he continues.
Often we end up making everybody a little bit unhappy, but hopefully there are trade-offs there as opposed to just picking one side, saying, okay, this is the way the game's going to be played, and then everyone else has to deal with the consequences.
Who the fuck gets unhappy from being able to change things about their character for different situations? It's optional to be optimal.
The thing we wanted to avoid was yet another system where the routine behavior for most players is as you're doing your farm clear of the raid, you're switching to AoE conduits for Council of Blood, then hearthing, swapping to single target for Sludge Fist, then back to AoE cleave setup for generals, and so forth. And that just becomes an extra layer of, frankly, inconvenience, nuisance, and undermines elements of choice inherent in the system.
Wait, what? It undermines choice to have more choice? What the fuck? I'm gonna assume that was a slip of the tongue. Anyway, this is an inconvenience and a nuisance that you created. You should be able to change your conduit with a tome, just like talents. So within the same soulbind, when I change from Fire Mage to Frost Mage, it should automatically switch the fire conduits to the frost conduits, and the soulbind path from the fire path to the one that I previously set up for frost. The whole idea that it would be super inconvenient to swap conduits because you'd have to hearth and blah 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 is just made up bullshit that really pisses off the player base.
Really, the goal is simply to limit the ability to swap back and forth multiple times in a day.
Why? Why would you stunt engaging complexity? Do you not remember the Azerite gear reforging? Conduit energy is the Azerite reforging of Shadowlands. Instead of having to pay hundreds of thousands of gold to play the game you want, you now just don't even get the option. And we all know how well that system was received. My final thoughts are that we want to try things out. We want to be able to try different specs. We want to try different covenants and conduits and soulbinds and everything else. We want to be able to play an alt and discover all the amazing things that a class has to offer. Why you lock us behind these stupid systems for our own good, I'll never understand. I'm Jim from Medicheck Poll. Peace.